Every year, over 600,000 people go missing in the United States. But here's what keeps me up at night. At least 1,600 of them vanished inside America's national parks, and nobody can explain why. Not the FBI, not the Park Service, not even the most experienced search and rescue teams in the world. These people didn't just get lost. They didn't just wander off a trail. They disappeared in ways that break every rule of logic and every instinct we have about how the world is supposed to work. This is the Missing 411. And the cases I'm about to share with you are some of the most disturbing disappearances ever documented on American soil. Let's set the stage. America's national parks span over 85 million acres of wilderness, an area bigger than the entire state of New Mexico. Every year, around 312 million visitors pour into these parks. Families on vacation, hikers chasing summit views, campers looking for a weekend under the stars. Most of them come home with nothing worse than a sunburn. But some don't come home at all, and the ones who vanish leave behind stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the great outdoors. David Paulides, a former police detective turned investigator, spent years pulling missing persons files from national parks across the country. What he uncovered was staggering. These weren't random, unrelated cases. They followed patterns, eerie, repeating patterns that no one had ever connected before. Victims found with their shoes inexplicably missing, bodies discovered in areas that search teams had already combed through, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times, experienced outdoorsmen vanishing in broad daylight without leaving a single footprint, children found alive miles from where they disappeared in terrain that would challenge a fit adult, and nearly every case clustered near water sources or boulder fields almost every time. Now, before you say, people get lost in the woods all the time, yeah, they do. But these cases are different, and I'm going to prove it with 4 cases that still have absolutely no answers. Case 1, Derek Luking, Great Smoky Mountains, 2012. Derek was 24 years old. He'd graduated from Johnson University in Knoxville, Tennessee, and worked as an orderly at Peninsula Behavioral Health Center. A normal guy, working a normal job, living a normal life. Then on March 15, 2012, Derek didn't show up for work. His phone went straight to voicemail. Nobody could reach him. His roommate called the family. Something was very wrong. The Lukings drove through the night from Virginia to Tennessee. When they checked Derek's computer, they found searches for the Great Smoky Mountains, a hotel reservation, and Bear Grylls' survival show, Man vs. Wild. Surveillance footage from March 17th showed Derek leaving the Microtel Inn in Cherokee, North Carolina at 4 in the morning, alone, wearing a gray hoodie and dark track pants, carrying nothing but a small day pack. That footage would be the last time anyone ever saw Derek Luking. Here's what makes this case genuinely bizarre. In the days before he disappeared, Derek had spent over $1,000 at Bass Pro Shop on survival equipment. A pack axe, compass, tent, sleeping bag, 100 feet of parachute cord, a fire starter, a headlamp, granola bars, a knife sharpener, and pages torn from a military survival manual. His family believes he was trying to survive in the wilderness the way Bear Grylls does on television. Derek was obsessed with that show, but here's the detail that stops you cold. He left all of it behind, every piece of that $1,000 survival kit, sitting untouched in his white Ford Escape at Newfound Gap, right on the Tennessee-North Carolina border. His wallet was there, his cash was there, and on the dashboard, a handwritten note with 5 words that haunt investigators to this day: "Don't try to follow me." The Park Service launched a massive search. Over 60 people deployed, 14 teams, 3 dog tracking units. They hiked more than 70 miles of trails surrounding Newfound Gap. Helicopters ran aerial sweeps for days. Rangers checked every point where someone could step off the trail and enter the woods, following paths into the forest until they hit rhododendron thickets so dense no human could push through without snapping branches and leaving evidence. They found nothing. Not a footprint, not a thread of clothing, not a snapped twig or a candy bar wrapper. It was like Derek Luking walked off the face of the earth. And here's one more chilling detail. At the exact same time Derek disappeared, another young man, Michael Kokini, 23, also vanished from the same area. His car was found just 1 mile from Derek's. Months later, a skull fragment was located near Kokini's vehicle. But Derek? Still nothing. He's still listed as an active cold case on the National Park Service website. Over a decade later, the Smoky Mountains have never given him back. Hold that thought, because the next case gets much darker. Case 2, Sheila Kearns, Mount Rainier, 1996. Sheila was 43 years old and worked as a housekeeper at the historic Paradise Inn inside Mount Rainier National Park. Her co-workers adored her. They described her as beautiful, kind, and incredibly careful. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't a thrill seeker. She knew the park like the back of her hand. She respected it. In early October 1996, the summer season ended and Sheila was hired for the winter crew. She attended a farewell dinner for the departing seasonal staff and moved into park employee housing near the Longmire area. On October 4th, she was last seen by co-workers. 2 days later, she didn't show up for her shift. This was so out of character that co-workers immediately knew something was wrong. Her cabin, empty, her car, sitting undisturbed in the lot, every personal belonging still inside her apartment. The only things missing from Sheila's entire life were her apartment key and the clothes on her back. Park officials initially thought she got lost on a trail. Then the FBI got involved. This was federal land, and the theory shifted. Maybe Sheila had been abducted. They offered a $5,000 reward for information. 7 agonizing months later, in May 1997, a park volunteer found skeletal remains near the Longmire campground, roughly a mile from where Sheila had lived and worked. The clothing matched: dark sweatshirt, lightweight hiking boots, long dark pants. Dental records confirmed it was her. The FBI brought in a forensics team and treated the entire scene as a crime scene. But here's where it becomes truly haunting. Her remains were scattered over a wide area. Investigators couldn't determine a definitive cause of death. The FBI mentioned a possible mountain lion attack but couldn't confirm it. They also couldn't rule out that she was murdered by another human being, and they couldn't explain how a woman described as incredibly careful ended up dead in the very woods she knew so well. To this day, Sheila's case is classified as an unsolved homicide. No one has ever been charged. No one has ever been named as a suspect. Case 3, Ramona Faye, Mount Rainier, 1995. 1 year before Sheila vanished from that same park, 39-year-old Ramona Faye drove her tan 1984 Jeep Cherokee into Mount Rainier under horrifying circumstances. Ramona suffered from schizophrenia, and on the morning of July 17, 1995, she left her sister's house in Spanaway, Washington, after cutting her own throat in a suicide attempt. Despite her injuries, she got behind the wheel and drove toward the park. On the way, she crashed. A single-car accident that left her Jeep in a ditch. It was towed out, and she kept driving. The next day, park officials found her Jeep abandoned outside a public restroom at 5 in the afternoon. The driver's door was wide open, the engine was still running, and inside the vehicle, a significant amount of blood. Witnesses reported seeing Ramona walking on a trail inside the park. Those sightings were the last confirmed trace of her. The Park Service launched an extensive search. Teams combed the trails, forests, and ravines. They found absolutely nothing. Not a piece of clothing, not a drop of blood along the trail, not a single sign that Ramona Faye had ever walked into those woods. Let that sink in for a moment. A woman who was visibly injured and actively bleeding on foot inside a national park, and she vanished so completely that a massive search operation found zero trace of her. She weighed 115 pounds and stood 5'6". How far could she have really gone? And if she collapsed somewhere in that wilderness, why couldn't anyone find her? Nearly 30 years later, Ramona Faye's case remains completely unsolved. Case 4, Harry, Yosemite National Park, historical. This final case reaches back through the fog of early record-keeping at one of America's oldest and most iconic parks. A man known as Harry was hiking with companions through Yosemite when a sudden, violent snowstorm rolled in and separated him from the group. His companions didn't give up. They fired 60 rifle shots into the freezing air, 60 rounds echoing across the granite walls of Yosemite Valley. As a desperate signal for Harry to follow the sound back to safety, an extensive search was organized. In Yosemite, that means navigating sheer granite cliffs, dense pine forests, freezing river crossings, and some of the most treacherous backcountry in the entire Sierra Nevada range. Harry was never found. No body, no remains, no pack, no boots, no clothing, just 60 spent shell casings and silence. A man who was alive and accounted for one moment and completely erased from existence the next. Yosemite gave nothing back. So what is actually happening in these parks? The missing 411 patterns don't just apply to these 4 cases. They span over 1,200 documented disappearances across the country. Victims whose shoes are found removed, sometimes placed neatly beside a trail. Bodies recovered in locations searchers had already thoroughly covered days earlier, as if they were placed there after the search moved on. Sudden weather changes that hit within hours of a disappearance, blinding search teams and destroying evidence. And experienced outdoors people who carry the right gear, who tell someone their route, who do everything right, still vanishing without a single clue. The rational explanations exist, and they're worth considering. Hypothermia causes paradoxical undressing. Freezing victims strip off their clothes because their failing nervous system tricks them into feeling hot. Disorientation in dense forest is well documented. Studies show lost people walk in circles even when they believe they're moving straight. Animal predation explains some cases, and the sheer vastness of these parks, over 640 million acres of federal wilderness in this country, means some people may simply fall into ravines or rivers and never be recovered. But then there are the theories that thrive on the internet. The feral people theory, wildly popular on TikTok and Reddit, suggests groups of wild, cannibalistic humans live deep within national park boundaries, preying on unsuspecting visitors. Videos about it have racked up tens of millions of views. Is there evidence? Absolutely zero. Not a single law enforcement agency has ever confirmed it. But the theory resonates because the truth is, we just don't have a better answer for every case. Others speculate about unknown predators, about electromagnetic anomalies near granite formations causing severe disorientation, or about the simple, uncomfortable truth that nature is completely indifferent to human life. And some of these parks contain terrain so remote and unforgiving that a person could disappear 10 feet off a marked trail and never be seen again. Here's what I can't stop thinking about. Derek Lou King left $1,000 of survival gear in his car, walked into the Smokies with nothing, and 60 searchers covering 70 miles of trail never found a single trace. Sheila Kearns, careful, responsible, beloved by everyone who knew her, was found scattered across a campground 7 months later, and her murder has never been solved. Ramona Faye was bleeding and injured, walking through a national park in broad daylight and vanished like she was never there. And Harry, 60 gunshots couldn't bring him home from Yosemite. These aren't campfire ghost stories. These are documented cases, real people with real families who are still right now waiting for answers that may never come. Real files sitting in FBI offices and on the National Park Service's cold case page, gathering dust while the wilderness keeps its secrets. So the next time you plan a trip to Yellowstone or the Smokies or Yosemite, and you absolutely should, these are some of the most magnificent places on Earth, just remember this: stay on the trail, tell someone exactly where you're going and when you'll be back. Carry more gear than you think you need. And if you're deep in the backcountry and the forest suddenly goes quiet, no birds, no wind, no sound at all, pay attention, because these mountains remember everyone who enters. They just don't always let everyone leave. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 4 cases disturbed you the most? Do you think there's a rational explanation for all of this, or is something stranger happening in America's national parks? Drop your answer in the comments right now. If this video sent a chill down your spine, smash that like button so more people can hear these stories. Share it with a friend who loves the outdoors or one who's planning a national park trip. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications, because the next video in this series goes even deeper into the unknown. Trust me, you are not ready for what's coming next.